Hey friends, I'm Remy. Welcome. So I just wanted to come at y'all real quick today, just in honor of No King's Day. I just got back from the rally in my town, and it was great. There was a massive turnout. There were tons of great signs, some of which were just really funny, some of which were just, you know, really factual about things that we need to change. Um, there was a lot of good music, there was a lot of good conversation, and we ended the rally with a march through the streets, and it was a great time. Um, anyway, I also just wanted to talk about reading as resistance. Um, Reading is a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and that's good. That's how it should be. You know, reading can be fun, reading can be educational, reading can be inspiring. It can be anything and everything that you need it to be. But one of those things that it can be is resistance. And I am going to talk about a few of the books that I've read recently that have inspired me in that way. The one that I just finished is Mutual Aid by Dean Spade. This book is all about community organizing, and how we do that in a way that is beneficial for the people around us who are really in need of it. You know, a lot of times when people are organizing communities, even if they don't even if it's not on purpose, it ends up being kind of selfish and about them and what they want it to be instead of what is actually helpful for the people who really need it. And this book tries to address ways to combat that and to build systems that affect real change that people really need instead of just doing good that feels good for you. Do good that does real good in the world. This book is maybe like a little bit more like leftist than I am, but still, I don't think that there was anything bad in this book. It was very, very good. The first half is probably more like big picture concepts, and then the second half is a lot more nitty gritty. Here's how you go about doing this in a in-depth manner. Like it gives you steps about like how to organize, how to structure leadership, how to structure meetings, like just a ton of information in this small little book. Highly recommend it if you are trying to get into community organizing at all. And then the next couple that I'm going to talk about really quick are all graphic novels because I just got all of these for my sibling because their birthday's coming up. Some of which I had read before, and then some of which I actually read the copies that I'm going to give to them before just because I wanted to read them, and they got here early enough so I could look at them. The first one, Mouse, part 2 is coming too. I didn't love Mouse when I read it. I just didn't like. Feels weird to say that I didn't connect to a story about the Holocaust, but I didn't. There's still a lot of good information here. It's a very touching story about a man who went through one of the worst things that's ever happened to anybody throughout all of human history. And again, it feels very weird to say that I didn't connect with it when I read it. But most people do, so I hope that my sibling will as well. And then the other one that I did read was Persepolis. This is the complete one, so 1 and 2. I really enjoyed Persepolis. I had like a couple small critiques of it, but nothing too major. And I think my sibling will really enjoy the journey that they go on throughout this book. Persepolis is all about a young girl growing up during the Iranian Revolution and how the culture is shifting so drastically and how she has to adapt to that in her personal life. There's a lot of like big picture critique of society, and then also a lot of like personal, like what was going on in her life as this was all happening and the effects that had on her. And I think that that's really powerful, and so I'm excited for them to read that as well. And then the one that I hadn't read was They Called Us Enemy. This one is about, what's his name? George Takei. Takei. I'm probably saying his last name wrong. The Star Trek guy. He was in the American-Japanese concentration camps during World War II, him and his family. And this is his personal story about their time and how that affected his life and his activism after that. It also expands more about the history of the camps and how that affected the Japanese Americans that were that had to deal with that. And it's a very good overview on something that at least I was not taught about at all. Like, I was told that, like, we had them, and that was it. You know, I never got any details about, you know, why we had them, what happened, or anything like that. I was just told that we had them, and that was it. And then we moved on. So it was good to know a little bit more of the history by reading that. And then the next one and the last one is March, John Lewis's story. This is one of 3 volumes, and I just read this one as well because I hadn't been familiar with John Lewis at all before this. And just thinking that this happened like 65, 60 years ago, that's insane to me. That little amount of time has passed since this was the norm, at least in the South. Like, that's insane to me. And so many people just think that, you know, we've dealt with the problem and it's gone. And it's not an issue anymore. Like, I grew up in a very white community, and, you know, I grew up thinking, like, it wasn't really a problem. And then, you know, I started traveling and, you know, gained more experience and saw, like, oh, some people do still really struggle with this, you know. And it breaks my heart that some people just live in their own little bubble and don't think it's a problem. Like, good, well-intentioned people who legitimately aren't racist just think that racism, like, is a solved issue and that people are just blowing it out of proportion. And that's just, you know, it's not the case. And if they got outside of their bubble, they'd know that. And then, of course, there's all the people who, you know, intentionally try to keep those bubbles intact. But that's a different story. That's beyond this conversation. Yeah, so those are the 4 graphic novels that I'm going to be giving to my sibling. I hope that they enjoy all of them. They're not like a huge reader, but they normally enjoy graphic novels. I've given them some before. So hopefully these won't hopefully these won't push them too much. You know, I try to be pretty balanced when I'm gifting books with giving things that I actually think that they'll enjoy versus, you know, things I just want to like shove down people's throats. One last book that I wanted to talk about before I leave you was The 100 Years' War on Palestine. I've read this one like 1.5 times probably because I've, you know, I took notes and jotted down a lot of references, and I reference it every now and then, so I come back to it. Just a really in-depth history of the Palestinian people and all the harm that has been done to them by various groups throughout history. Thankfully, people seem to finally be coming around to that and opening their minds to the Palestinian cause, and I'm very thankful for that. A little late, but a little late is better than never. Anyway, that's really all that I had to say about about books. There are so many great books out there, and if you have more recommendations about books that I should read to inform my worldview, not even necessarily like nonfiction, but maybe, you know, some fictional books that have to deal with political or sociological concepts, I would love to hear them. What are some of your favorites? What are some that have really affected you? Yeah, and that's about it. Keep reading, keep learning, keep loving, keep living, and keep fighting for democracy. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Peace.